Hello, welcome to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. In this upload, we're going to be reading 2 Kings chapter 8. Then spake Elisha unto the woman, whose son he had restored to life, saying, Arise, and go thou and thine household, and sojourn wheresoever thou canst sojourn. For the Lord hath called for a famine, and it shall also come upon the land 7 years. And the woman arose, and did after the saying of the man of God. And she went with her household and sojourned in the land of the Philistines 7 years. And it came to pass at the 7 years' end that the woman returned out of the land of the Philistines, and she went forth to cry unto the king for her house and for her land. And the king talked with Gehazi, the servant of the man of God, saying, Tell me, I pray thee, all the great things that Elisha hath done. And it came to pass, as he was telling the king how he had restored a dead body to life, that behold, the woman whose son he had restored to life cried to the king for her house and for her land. And Gehazi said, My lord, O king, this is the woman, and this is her son, whom Elisha restored to life. And when the king asked the woman, she told him. So the king appointed unto her a certain officer, saying, Restore all that was hers, and all the fruits of the field since the day that she left the land, even until now. And Elisha came to Damascus, and Benhadad, the king of Syria, was sick. And it was told him, saying, The man of God is come hither. And the king said unto Hazael, Take a present in thine hand, and go, meet the man of God, and inquire of the Lord by him, saying, Shall I recover of this disease? So Hazael went to meet him, and took a present with him, even of every good thing of Damascus, 40 camels burden, and came, and stood before him, and said, Thy son Benhadad, king of Syria, hath sent me to thee, saying, Shall I recover of this disease? And Elisha said unto him, Go, say unto him, Thou mayest certainly recover. Howbeit, the Lord hath shewed me that he shall surely die. And he settled his countenance steadfastly until he was ashamed. And the man of God wept. And Hazael said, Why weepeth my Lord? And he answered, Because I know the evil that thou wilt do unto the children of Israel. Their strongholds wilt thou set on fire, and their young men wilt thou slay with the sword, and wilt dash their children, and rip up their women with child. And Hazael said, But what? Is thy servant a dog, that he should do this great thing? And Elisha answered, The Lord hath shewed me that thou shalt be king over Syria. So he departed from Elisha, and came to his master, who said to him, What said Elisha to thee? And he answered, He told me that thou shouldest surely recover. And it came to pass on the morrow that he took a thick cloth and dipped it in water and spread it on his face, so that he died. And Hazael reigned in his stead. And in the 5th year of Joram, the son of Ahab, king of Israel, Jehoshaphat, being then king of Judah, Jehoram the son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, began to reign. 32 years was he when he began to reign, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. And he walked in the way of the kings of Israel, as did the house of Ahab, for the daughter of Ahab was his wife, and he did evil in the sight of the Lord. Yet the Lord would not destroy Judah for David his servant's sake, as he promised him to give him alway a light, and to his children. In his days, Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah, and made a king over themselves. So Joram went over to Zair, and all the chariots with him, and he rose by night and smote the Edomites which compassed him about, and the captains of the chariots and the people fled into their tents. Yet Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah unto this day. Then Libnah revolted at the same time. And the rest of the acts of Joram and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the chronicles of the kings of Judah? And Joram slept with his fathers, and was buried and his fathers in the city of David, and Ahaziah his son reigned in his stead. And the 12th year of Joram, the son of King Ahab, king of Israel, did Ahaziah the son of Joram, king of Judah, begin to reign. 22 years old was Ahaziah when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri, king of Israel. And he walked in the way of the house of Ahab, and did evil in the sight of the Lord, as did the house of Ahab, for he was the son in law of the house of Ahab. And he went with Joram the son of Ahab to the war against Hazael, king of Syria, and Ramoth Gilead. And the Syrians wounded Joram. And King Joram went back to be healed in Jezreel of the wounds which the Syrians had given him at Ramah, when he fought against Hazael, king of Syria. And Ahaziah, the son of Jeroboam, king of Judah, went down to see Joram, the son of Ahab, in Jezreel, because he was sick. In the previous chapter, 2 Kings 7, Elisha declares that prices for items will be reduced by the following day. An important employee of the king of Israel responds in disbelief. Elisha tells him that though he will witness the price reduction, he won't eat the food. Four lepers close to death decide to surrender to the Syrians and get their lives taken rather than die from their illness or from the famine. They find the Syrian camp empty. They left all of their goods. We learn God made the camp hear a great military, which scared them away. The prices for items were immediately reduced, and the man who doubted Elisha's word was trampled by the city entrance. The man saw the prices change but was unable to eat any of the food, just as Elisha said. Our current chapter, 2 Kings 8. Elisha warns the unnamed wife from chapter 4 that a 7-year famine is coming. She goes to live in the land of the Philistines until it's over. She comes back to petition the king for her property. Gehazi, Elisha's servant, influences the king to return her property, and he does. King Benhadad gets sick and dies. Hazael becomes king of Syria next. Jehoshaphat's son Jehoram becomes king of Judah, marries Ahab's daughter, and becomes an evil king. Joram loses control of Edom and Libnah. Jeroam's son Azahiah becomes Judah's next king. The king of Judah is Azahiah. The king of Israel is Joram. The king of Syria, or Aram, is Hazael. Summarizing 2 Kings 8, verses 1 through 3. So, in chapter 4, there was an unnamed wealthy woman that allowed Elisha and his servant Gehazi to stay with her. In this chapter, Elisha warns this woman to get her family out of this land because a famine is about to hit. So the woman listened to him and she went to live among the Philistines for those 7 years that the famine was going to be there. So when the woman returned to where she lives, she went to appeal to the king for her house. It says here that the king had been speaking to the servant, the attendant of Elisha, his servant. I think I read that wrong because the way I read this was a little bit more disrespectful. The way I read this was she went to him, she went to the king to appeal, and as she's making her appeal, then Gehazi just bogards and starts talking to the king. But now that I'm reading it here, I don't think that's what happened. I think what it says here in verse 4, the king was speaking to Gehazi, and you know, she walks in, or maybe at the same time. I don't know. I just don't get the feeling that reading this right here that it was like that. It seems like he was just talking to the servant first and she comes in. I guess it's not that important. But the king starts asking Elisha's servant, like, tell me about what Elisha's done. So Elisha tells the king about how he restored this woman's son. And then the king agrees to restore her land that she left during the 7-year famine. And so she left. So that's verses 1 through 6. That's dealing with that woman from chapter 4 that, had her son restored. So she gets her land restored. So now we're done with that. Verse 7 through 15. King Benhadad of Syria and Aram is the same territory. So King Benhadad of Syria was sick. He's notified that Elisha is there. So the king tells Hazael. Now, Hazael, we have not seen him since Elijah anointed him. So 1 Kings chapter 19. So this is the chapter after Elijah, when Elijah was still living. So Elijah is the prophet that was taken by fire. He was Elisha's mentor. So after he calls down fire, that's this chapter. We get down to 15, we see Hazael as king over Aram. Aram and Syria is the same thing. So God is saying this to Elijah. Okay. Verse 13, suddenly, what are you doing here, Elijah? Okay, then the Lord says to him, you are to anoint Hazael. We don't hear about Hazael again until now. The king of Syria is sick, and we don't know what Hazael does. It just says the king said to Hazael, take this gift and go meet Elisha and ask him, will I recover? So Hazael goes to meet Elisha, ask him, will the king recover? Elisha says, you're recovered, but you're going to die, which I didn't quite understand that because, I mean, isn't everyone going to die? I don't know. I feel like this answer was, I don't know, because he ends up dying like right after that. So, I mean, did he get well? And then after he got well, he died? I don't know. Anyways, in verse 11, what this is saying is Elisha is staring at this man, Hazael. And Hazael is like, what? Why are you crying? And Elisha tells them, because you're going to be evil. You're going to be a ruler over Israel. Yes, you'll be king over Israel, king over Syria. I'm sorry. So Hazael is in disbelief because he's like, man, I just came to ask, is the king going to be okay? And you're telling me I'm going to be an evil king to the point where you're crying? So verses 14 and 15, Hazael goes back to the king of Syria, tells him, hey, you're going to die. And then he dies. And Hazael becomes king in verse 15. So we are addressing again King Joram of Israel and King Jehoram of Judah. And I've explained why I believe Israel is Joram. So we're going to see this King Joram, son of Ahab, Jeroham, son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. Okay. So this is saying in the 5th year of Joram's rule, Jeroam became king. So Joram is on year 5. Jehoram is on year 1. And just we have 3 territories now for this group of people. We have Israel, we have Judah, and we have Syria. So of Israel, King Joram; of Judah, King Jehoram. It's it's a typo, in my opinion. Seems like everyone's saying that now, in my opinion. Okay, but in my opinion, that's what I think. And so, because this sentence is about Jehoram, I know how this looks, but it's saying in the 5th year, this is like describing Jehoram. Okay, he became king of Judah, and he was 32 years old. He reigned 8 years. He was also evil, and he married uh, Ahab's wife. Okay, so Jehoram, the king of Judah, David's descendant, married Ahab's daughter, so Jezebel's daughter. And it keeps, again, for the sake of his servant David, because God promised David, was it in this? It was in First Kings, I think. And I'm not going to go back, but for the sake of David, God was unwilling to destroy Judah. So Jehoram, again, king of Judah, he lost control of Edom, and appointed their own king. And he also lost Libnah in verse 22. Then it says the rest of the events of Joram's reign are written in the historical king record of Judah's kings. Okay. Now, the reason why this is going together is because we are reading of the version that we're reading. We're reading the Christian Standard Bible, but um there is a typo with King Joram and King Jehoram in some of the translations. So we already saw that. Judah lost both Edom and Libnah. And then we see that change in leadership again. So now we see the record of Judah's kings being mentioned because we have the separate territories, Israel, Judah. So with the leadership change in Judah, now we see this book mentioned. So Jehoram, king of Judah, rested with his fathers. His son Ahaziah, or I keep saying it wrong, Ahaziah becomes king next. So Ahaziah is now king of Judah. So in the 12th year of King Joram, okay, son of Ahab, because remember, his father was on year 1 when King Joram of Israel was on year 5. So now King Joram of Israel is on year 12. Ahaziah, Jehoram's son, is on year 1. He becomes king of Judah. He was 22. He reigned 1 year. His mother's name was Athaliah, okay? And she's a descendant of Omri. I think this is Ahab's father, but he was a king of Israel. Ahaziah also walked in the ways of Ahab. He had married into the house of Ahab. So Ahaziah, the king of Judah, went with Joram, the king of Israel, to fight against the Syrian king, Hazael. Joram, king of Israel, was wounded, so he returns to Jezreel, the city, to recover. Then Ahaziah went to visit him since he was injured. So there's about to be some carnage in the next chapter. Shouldn't smile for that, but after reading like Leviticus and Exodus, oh my goodness, that took a lot of mental energy. And I rewatched one of those videos. I had like a black and white top on, and I was just because it took a lot to read about all those cubits and the cubits of measurement. At least we're getting to some action now. Well, thank you for clicking on the video. I love you. Have a wonderful day.